my bicep popped right off the bone. And obviously I had to have that fixed, and you're unable to do anything for weeks, months, really.
¿Cómo ha sido como la trascendencia tuya de experimentar no solo el campo de la lucha libre hacia el cine? ¿Qué elementos has aprendido de pronto cuando estás en pantalla en el que tú hayas, por ejemplo, datos que has podido aprender de la lucha también, que los has podido aplicar en tus personajes?
Okay, Jhon is a big wrestling fan, and yes, he wanna know what like tips or I don't know helpful things you can take on your back of your wrestling career to apply it to your acting career that was coming up next. And whatever you wanna say about your wrestling career, man, Jhon will die. Jhon loves wrestling.
Okay.
Man. In fact, he was so excited to have you here.
Okay. Let's see. We're gonna start from the beginning. Growing up, I kind of was caught between the two worlds of performing and physical sports. I'd have to say, like, looking back, my first love was performing. I mean, my father sat me down and started showing me movies, and I mean, it was over. And then I got exposed to football, American football, and the my athletic ambitions kind of started to take over a little bit. So I was, middle school, high school was, football, amateur wrestling, high school wrestling, baseball, not so much in high school, but baseball prior to that. And then when my athletic time had kind of ended in high school and I wasn't going to be playing football, in college or beyond, I had a very hard time letting go of that physicality. But at the same time, I also knew that I needed to perform as well. And at that time, pro wrestling was on the rise. It was enormously popular. That was, Steve Austin and The Rock, and that whole Attitude Era of the WWE was out, in WCW and ECW, and I thought it was a perfect blend of being physical and athletic, and also being able to perform in front of people. And I started training in the summer of 2000, and I never looked back. I traveled up and down, and I went to Japan for 01 pretty early. And I wasn't ready. Mentally, I was not. Physically, I was very ready. Mentally, I was not ready. Wrestling kind of did life. It was my own life, and it kind of took on a life of its own. And I had a decent amount of success for somebody at the time that was under 6 feet. But what ended up happening is that I started to become a little disgruntled with the way that my wrestling career was going, and the opportunities that I felt like I should have been getting, that I was told that I should be getting, but I was not getting. It's very hard when somebody that's in charge of hiring for WWE pulls you aside. And this is not just one people, this is two people on multiple occasions saying, I wish you were like 4 or 5, 6 inches taller, because you'd be on the road with us. And I got that. And it was there's nothing you can do about that at that time, because they were looking for people that were, 220 plus and 6 feet plus. And it's impossible. I can't do that. And Japan wasn't calling. 01 had done whatever they'd done. I had gotten a small opportunity with New Japan. That didn't pan out. And then what ultimately ended up happening was I ended up getting hurt. And I was in a wrestling match in Maryland. And the guy I was in the ring with, and I'm not going to badmouth anybody, but ended up doing a little bit more than he should have, and ended up pulling my elbow out of socket, and my bicep popped right off the bone. And obviously I had to have that fixed, and you're unable to do anything for weeks, months, really. Yeah, so I had this long extended downtime where I had nothing to do but think, like, all right, so do I want to get hurt again? Do I want to be 50, 60 years old and not able to walk, or dealing with another injury in a place where it's even worse? And then in that time, I started to watch a lot of movies and shows. I remember watching Magnum PI with Tom Selleck. Basically the entire series. And then I started watching Inside the Actor Studio, and I was able to, in that time of reflection, I was able to kind of dial back to, all right, so why did you get involved in wrestling? Do you want to get hurt again? What made you get involved in wrestling? And then it was like, at one point I kind of dialed back to when I was 15 or 16. I was in the drama class in my high school, and I didn't really think anything of it. I thought this was just really easy stuff. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything that I took terribly seriously. And the drama teacher, pulled me aside after a family scene that we did where I played the father. And he pulled me aside. He took time out of, what he could have been doing anything else. And he said, Josh, I got to tell you. Well, first he said, Josh, can I talk to you after class? Class ended. And then I was getting ready to walk out because I didn't really want to talk to him. And he pulled me aside and he said, I got to tell you, with a little bit of training, you could be a really solid actor. And I was, for lack of a better word, when I was in high school, I was an asshole. I had my head in other places, maybe up my ass a little bit, but, and it was something that I need to hear, but I was not, mature enough to hear. And I was not in tune with myself enough to hear. And he really cared. He said those words to me, which he didn't have to say. And I said, oh, okay. And I walked out. Lo and behold, a number of years later, I ended up becoming an actor. So anyway, I got this, bicep that I'm thinking about my entire life and what do I really want to do, and what am I good at, and why did I get involved in wrestling? And I just said, maybe I should just try acting class. Let's just try an acting class, and at the very, very least, you get really good at talking on the microphone when I go back to wrestling. And I took an acting class, and we kind of breezed over, like the acting 101 that I was taking at the time. We kind of breezed over the entire business of acting, and then we decided to do some commercial copy, just reading commercials. And we got up there, and we all did it individually. And we got this commercial copy, this commercial script, and I could feel my heart pounding while I was reading this commercial copy, just like this. And in that moment, I realized this is what I was searching for. This level of excitement and this level of creation, this level of command and creativity. And I said, that was it. And in that moment, I basically decided to myself, I said, you're going to finish up your pro wrestling bookings, and we're going to dive down this rabbit hole of acting. And I haven't looked back. I finished up my acting bookings in the summer of June of 2013. And that was it. I was done, and I just dived. I was already auditioning and taking classes in that time, but in that moment, I just dived. After that moment, that weekend, I dived right into pro wrestling, right into acting, and that was it. So here I am. We'll call it. After that, it's been almost 9 years now of not wrestling but strictly acting, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, it has its rough patches, but in terms of my professional creativity and what I'm doing, I'm infinitely happier than I ever was as a pro wrestler. So, and that's not to take anything away from pro wrestling, because I think in pro wrestling in its purest form is beautiful. But I just wasn't getting the satisfaction that I felt like I should have been, and that I did at one point. But I continue to get that with acting. So here I am.
No, and I'm happy because Jhon was telling me on the chat that we are going now to talk about movies, acting. Jhon, sé que se viene una pregunta que tú deseas hacer.
De hecho, yo te quiero preguntar sobre, ¿qué fue tu experiencia no solo de Grecia, sino cuál es tu mitología favorita en el que, descubriste, en el que tú alguna vez deseas estar en una historia y, que nos hables del filme Legends of Medallion?
Okay, we are going to talk about not only about your work on the legend of the Medallion, but Jhon is interested to know if you got like a favorite mythos or legend that you wanna be playing on a future now in your acting career? But tell us about Legend of the Medallion, man.
Legend Medallion. Okay, I have to think about this. So, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, a friend of mine, Solomon Chertok, reached out to me and said that a filmmaker friend of his was looking to fill a role for like a thug or a henchman. I'm sorry, a henchman in his film. And we filmed in Jersey, and so I reached out to this to the filmmaker, the writer, and the director, Jonathan, which I'm not sure he's involved in the film business anymore, but I reached out to him and sent him some of my stuff, and he said, "Let's do it." And it was fun. It was a little campy, a little cheesy, but it was a lot of fun. We filmed in a bar in New Jersey. We filmed in a park somewhere in New Jersey. I forget what park that was. And then we filmed in an office or in a basement. It was fun. I mean, I didn't have a ton of lines, but in terms of like the action of what I was doing and being like just this crazy henchman, it was a lot of fun. That was one of my first acting jobs for Jonathan Brandau. That was good stuff. We'll have fun times.
Es bastante interesante porque esta historia, bueno, es como la más personal suya, porque no solo habla de la primera pregunta. En Cyclone me parece impresionante porque la pregunta que yo te hago ya es un tanto como de ambos por los opuestos. ¿Cuál es tu ciclo de toda su carrera que ha aprendido, en el que debiste de pronto decir, bueno, hubiera hecho otro aspecto para mejorar tal asunto en esa historia?
Okay, this question deals with within your most personal project, that is Cycle, not only because you write it, but talking not only about the writing process of this project. Jonas, I know that he will understand it if he understands English, because we were talking about that, but it's okay if he asks that. Talking about cycles, there's a cycle in your career that, man, you wish to, I don't know, to revisit, to explore. I think that you will say that, not that you feel satisfied with what you did and what you're doing now, but sometimes things get lost in translation. I promise to translate everything to Jhon. So tell us about the screenplay cycle and the cycles of life, man.
Okay, so you want me to talk about the script that I wrote, the cycle and the film that we're doing, that I'm trying to get done now? Okay. So this is an interesting story. A number of years ago, let me dial back. When I was a pro wrestler, I was a very big fan of Chris Benoit, despite what happened with his situation. Okay, very, very big fan of his, and like he did with Dynamite Kid, I took a lot of what Chris Benoit and Dynamite did, and I kind of integrated it into myself. And obviously there were mistakes being made, but after whatever happened with him and his family, there was talks of them making a movie. So I was pitching to my reps, my agents, my reps, and what's going on with this, what's going on with that. I'm following Lexi Alexander. I'm talking to my friends about this. I'm seeing what's going on, and nothing had been happening. And I switched reps, and I send out. I changed up one rep, and I went to another rep. And I'm pitching her, saying, well, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? And, there was talk of it, but nothing was ever really happening. And then I was also pitching reps about other pro wrestling projects, and I just wasn't getting the sort of traction that I wanted. And then I was reading an article that said that this rapper, oh God, I forgot his name, Little Dougie. I should know this. Anyway, he had a pilot that was greenlit on X called Dave. Now, me being ignorant at the time, I said to myself, what? And excuse my language, if this motherfucker can get his pilot greenlit, why the fuck can I not write what I know and see if I can get something going? So I called up a friend of mine who I was very close with, and we were talking about it. And without getting into too much detail, we said, let's do this. And I took all of our experiences. I mean, a lot of my experiences because I wrote most of it. But I took these experiences and I kind of put them into this. I created this this amalgamation, this combination of all the things that I experienced with pro wrestling. And I put it, originally it was going to be a pilot, and then I thought maybe better if it be a short. And then I talked to the original director that I wanted to, which I still do want him. If we ever make this into a film, I would like him to be a part of this, Pete. And then he said, you got to make this a film. I said, okay, fine. And I just started writing, and then I sent it to my writing partner, and he'd add a little bit, and then I'd write even more, and then he'd add just a little bit, and then I'd write even more, and it just kind of took on this life of its own. And essentially what I did was I took all the people that I've known in pro wrestling, myself included, not all of them, but a good amount of the very interesting people that I've came across on pro wrestling, all these situations, my lifestyle, as well as some of the people that had come before me. And I kind of created this really dark sort of this dark, desperate, lonely world that's based in the pro wrestling world. But it essentially deals with addiction and responsibility, all in the pro wrestling world. And then I came up with a bunch of different titles and had all these working titles, and I'm copywriting this, I'm sending to myself, and doing all this sort of stuff. And then my partner and I, we kind of came on like, what, cycle works. Cycle basically describes this entire process of I'll just tell you, this entire process of wanting to do these things, having to be able to do these things, but because of who you are, because of the world that you're involved in, you keep getting sucked back in to the same exact cycle over and over again. And what ends up happening is that you as a performer, you as an individual or an athlete, or whatever, can't get out of your own way and realize your full potential, even though it's right in front of your face. And yeah, basically 30 pages turned into 60 pages, turned into about 90 pages. And we're on a bit of a filming hold right now because I'm waiting to bring on one other person on board. But there's been a few pieces that have been done already, and you just got to see what happens. Once it's all done and it's in the can, so to speak. You just throw it out there and you see what happens with your art, and that's all you can really do. So.
In fact, Jhon was telling me that he was understanding some parts, but when I translated, man, you will feel out what a great. In fact, the writing of the screenplay itself is a cycle, man. What a crazy cycle, man. Wow.
Oh, yes, it is. It's very the writing of anything, of the creative anything can be a serious cycle. You're coming back and forth, and you're doing these. Sometimes you're doing the same things over and over again. And you step back and say, "Am I doing the right thing?" And then you got to make a change and kind of just keep pressing forward, and hopefully you don't fall back into that cycle. So.
Wow, Jhon, vas a flipar cuando te traduzca. Creo que tú entendiste unas partes.
Vale. Pero antes de hablar sobre el autofilme, yo te quiero preguntar, ¿en Cyclo están todos los actores o están buscando más? Porque yo te recomiendo a Nelson Jhon. Es un gran fan.
Wow. Déjame decirte que de hecho no ha comenzado, se ha grabado unas cosas, no ha comenzado porque está esperando que entre ciertas personas. But I tell Jhon, yes, this is like okay, like a crazy trivia from the channel, because Jhon was asking me. Of course, I tell him that you keep on waiting to some people get on board of the project, but some parts. We as a channel recommend you an actor that we interviewed with before that is called Nelson Jhon. Man, that actor that he has appeared, of course, in great projects like Gotham, like a lot of series like Arrow. He really loves wrestling, but I don't know, man. I know you're the man in charge, but we, Jhon and the channel recommend you the actor. In fact, I will tell Jhon that share his interview. Jhon, después compártele. I know it's crazy that John come out with this, but he was like, oh, does he still got all the people for this project? I don't know if I feel right recommending him. I don't know, man. I know it's crazy, but my
It's
job is to
okay.
translate.
So I have yeah. So the what I'm working on right now is a short, similar to I still have to watch it, but apparently you know the film Whiplash. Originally, when they first created Whiplash, it was done as a short in order to create interest. So the cast is very small. It's basically me in the lead, two girls, a voice, and then we have a director. And what I'm looking to do is bring on another director of photography who I'm very familiar with. His work is brilliant. Now, if it decides to go any further, then yeah, then we'll talk about bringing on other people. But as of right now, it's got to stay small just because the budget is what it is, and overextending anything might fall me back into the same old cycle. So I just want I want to keep this very focused and very cheap, so to speak, so that I can focus on getting this, say, 15 to 20-minute short film done, and then see what we can do further with that. So.
Okay, man, I will tell to John, but thank you. John, lo que pasa es que él lo está manteniendo ahorita como ese corto, pero él dice que no, o sea, que puede que pase lo que pasó con Whiplash, un corto que después se convirtió en lo que es ahora, entonces dice que probablemente, pero él dice que mientras por el presupuesto quiere hacer un corto de 20 minutos, pero yo sé que esto va para más grande.
Sí, claro. También yo quiero hablar sobre, bueno, Jhon Benagon, Tara Hey se lució, es una de las protagonistas, pero también tu personaje. Yo lo que quiero saber es, ¿le gustaría mantener haciendo personajes sombríos, personajes que de verdad, o sea, en todos estos minutos que la verdad a mí, yo pude ver el corte en YouTube, me dejó volado la cabeza. Ojalá haga más de esto, le gustaría hacer más, y sobre qué significó para ti ese trasfondo.
I sometimes I hate only to be the translator because I will ask John the favor to he saw the short film Gon Belagon. He said that blow his mind, and he asked you not only about the situations that these short tells, but do you want to keep doing more somber roles, or I don't know, because he was like, wow, man, this project is very somber. In fact, he not only he told me, John, that of course Tara, but you, but did amazing roles in this project. I will ask John to share me because I really want to see it. I don't want to only translate but watch it. But go ahead, man.
Yeah, I in terms of like somber, serious roles, I'm all for it. I mean, I think that's where a good amount of my strength lies. But if you know me, yeah, people also know that I can be, very goofy, very funny. Do I get called in for roles like that? Is that something that I'm good at, like, say, writing? No. But in terms of, doing, we'll call it like slapstick comedy or extreme sort of stuff, facial expressions, whatever, I'm very good at that. But I don't get called in for a lot of roles for that. But I would be more than happy to do those roles if the decision makers feel that I fit those roles. But in terms of like, serious and, dramatic roles, I mean, as of right now, that's pretty much where my focus is. So that answers the question, right?
Bueno, yo quisiera hablar sobre una historia que la verdad o sea, es una de mis favoritas que se llama The Enemy Waiting. Es prácticamente, obviamente, el haber participado en una de las tantas historias que se ven ahí, como la protagonista de Jennifer Carpenter, pero obviamente acá en el canal estuvo en esa serie de Yulitza Berberena. Entonces, yo quiero preguntarte sobre cómo consideras la evolución de tanto el orden secreto obviamente, de la justicia y de los espías. ¿Alguna vez deseas por ejemplo, qué cambios desea ver en estas historias, cuando le toque un rol, o si le toca un rol tipo, no sé, James Bond, ¿cómo sería tu personaje perfecto?
You are the second person that we interviewed with that had appeared on The Enemy Within. The first one was Julissa Orberena, a Puerto Rican actress. Jhon want to know, and I will add something because I know that you had appeared also in another shows, like big shows also. How do you see this world of investigation and detectives, and do you wanna later play? What will be your dream role as a spy, man, or as an investigator? I don't know. Tell us. Yes,
What would be my ultimate role as a spy?
yes.
Okay. I gotta say that growing up, my father brought me up on Sean Connery and James Bond and Roger Moore. So that sort of notion, obviously, logistically speaking, I can't be a James Bond. But I definitely am fascinated by the espionage genre, the spies and the spies and the lies, we'll call it. What would be my ultimate role? I think every guy, most guys, they kind of want to be that sort of James Bond and be the smooth talking whatever. While I do think that I could fit that role in an American sort of way, an American sort of right, I think my forte would be the bumbling, hungover, not cool James Bond, whatever spy, but kind of almost like and I kind of drew I drew a little bit of inspiration from these roles, like the Lethal Weapon, the Martin Riggs, and the John McClane, and the Joe Hollenbach, the Bruce Willis roles, that kind of hung over, and they kind of touched on it in Atomic Blonde with James McAvoy, having playing that sort of, very smart, but also just, I'm a mess sort of idea, that bumbling, haggard, scruffy sort of, kind of like the hungover guy that knows what's going on. He just doesn't have the energy to do it, but is able to get things done anyway. I think that would be the ultimate would be the pinnacle of what I would be. I think that would be a great role for me to fill in terms of being a spy. I'm not sure that people would buy me as kind of the smooth, suave, debonair, you look like crap and then you get out of the sauna and you look amazing, James Bond sort of role, but more of the guy with the 5 o'clock shadow that just finished swigging a bottle of whiskey and I got to go deal with this sort of thing right now. And then we go back and, climb in bed with a girl and then get up and do another thing. And I think that would be a very, very fun role and a fitting role for me to fill.
Man, we still got time, so the camera is yours. If you want to say a hi to the channel, to Colombia, to the people that is watching, say your social media so people can follow you and talk about another project that you want to talk. Man, the camera is yours. For us, it was a pleasure to have you here, man.
No, I don't have a whole lot to say. I mean, I really appreciate you guys reaching out. I was really surprised that Jhon reached out. I was a little wary at first because I don't, unless something comes through a rep of mine, I kind of have to look at it for a second. So forgive me for being skeptical at first, but this is great. So I appreciate you guys reaching out and taking the time to talk to me. I guess in terms of social media, I'm pretty streamlined with social media. So if anybody that's watching or is watching in the future wants to check me out on social media, I'm on Twitter and on Instagram. The handle is at True Josh Daniels. So it's TrueJoshDaniels. I think I got that. TrueJoshDaniels. Yes. So that's on Instagram and Twitter. So I'm pretty active on Twitter. I should probably be a little bit more active on Instagram. Anything else I want to say? No, man. I'm just happy to be here. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm flattered that you guys reached out. And I'm, maybe we can do this again sometime. This is great. I love talking to people from all over the world. So, and I think it's great that John's got his role, and Andres, you got your role, and this has been a lot of fun, and I really, really appreciate you guys reaching out and taking the time to just talk to me. So, thank you very much.
Before we take the final picture, I will tell that to Jhon. Jhon dice que le gustó mucho y que si quiere repetir, que como sea, que para él sería un honor repetir incluso.
Oh, thank you. Vamos a brindarle un fuerte aplauso.
Bravo.
Thank you very much. Thank you for reaching out.
Josh, we are going to take a picture so we can share to the social media. Please, man, smile or pose or whatever you want. Yes.
You're
Thank
good?
you so much. We are good. Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You guys enjoy your night.
Bye, man.